Hey YouTube, Jim here. Welcome to Top 10 Archive. Boy, have times changed. I recall the day when there were those who would run behind mosquito control trucks, inhaling the fragrant fumes that it emitted. Smoke man, they used to call me. Him. Well, nowadays, tell people you're running behind a pesticide truck and they'll have you committed and screened for all forms of cancer. All I'm saying is, there are things today that are abnormal that were once normal. And to further prove my point, here are 10 examples. You know what's normal today that wasn't normal years ago? Subscribing to a YouTube channel, and clicking the notification bell, and leaving a comment. These are all things you should do before they become an oddity.
Number 10. Over-the-counter cocaine. You know how if you're caught with cocaine today, you're committing a crime? Well, rewind the clock to the late 19th and early 20th centuries, and there's a chance your doctor could have prescribed you a dose, legally. During the 1880s, it was given to former Civil War soldiers to quell morphine addiction. Sigmund Freud even wrote a glowing review of the product after a decade of using it titled Uber Cocaine. And in 1884, it was implemented as an aid in eye surgery for numbing the eye and reducing bleeding, toothaches, depression, fatigue. Until the addictive nature of the drug was realized, these were just a few of the ailments cocaine helped with. Number 9. Smoking while pregnant. It seems like everything is bad for the baby when you're pregnant, but there was a time when that wasn't the case. Doctors were far more lenient, even prescribing a healthy dose of tobacco to pregnant women. During the 1950s, about a decade before the Surgeon General reported on a link between smoking and cancer, it was common practice for expecting mothers to be told to turn to cigarettes to ease some of the nasty side effects of being pregnant, like anxiety. Cigarette advertisements even catered to new and expecting mothers. Number 8. Duels. When you get into a tiff with someone, how do you handle it these days? Chances are you take to Facebook or Twitter and make a crack about their sister or mother. It's an effective method, strikes them right down to the core. But it has nothing on the olden days of problem resolution when people would take to the streets for a duel. Fought with pistols, swords, or fists, the duel was intended to settle a dispute. Typically, it would end with the death of one fighter. Dueling existed in the early Middle Ages and was acceptable even into the early 20th century, but has since faded. Although in the state of Texas, it is still legal to duel with fists only, according to sections 22.01 and 22.06 of the Texas Penal Code. Number 7. Radioactive Toys. We've spoken about radioactive toys in a prior archive, but it's so fascinating that we just had to include them on this list. One popular child's toy was the Gilbert U-238 Atomic Energy Lab, which released in the early 1950s. Gilbert's toy touted some strange things for a child's entertainment, including the ability to measure atomic radiation and watch the disintegration of radioactive material. The set was able to provide these displays because it also came with 4 types of uranium. Oh yeah, and there was also the Kix atomic bomb ring, complete with a nuclear reaction of polonium alpha particles on zinc sulfide. Number 6. Asylum Tourism. It's incredibly common for closed-down asylums to offer tours and overnight stays. It's not so common for active asylums to invite curious travelers for a tour of the patients. Yep, you heard that right. Before the late 1800s, asylum tourism wasn't that insane of a concept. Patients, whether they belonged there or were put there by their bored or jealous husbands, were on display for as low as a shilling. Today, that equates to 1/100th of a dollar. Thankfully, by the 19th century, the immoral treatment of patients was put in the spotlight, and asylum tourism was more about seeing the architecture than the people. Number 5. Butter on a burn. It sounds like a delicious remedy to a burn, but beyond making you smell like an enticing roast, the act of putting butter on a fresh injury is archaic and kind of dangerous. The thought was that butter would help ease pain. But what the greasy, fatty dairy product actually does is trap heat. Your main goal after receiving a nasty burn is to cool the area, and butter, even cold butter, does the exact opposite. Number 4. Flip phones. Hey, what is this antiquated piece of technology? Is this a prop from an old Star Trek television series? Maybe it's one of these beepers that people used to rave about, Clearly this can't be a phone. Where's the touchscreen? Where are the emojis? Why am I not connected to the world through it? Blasphemy and witchcraftery! Okay, so flip phones aren't that old of a technology. In fact, some people still use them today. But let's be honest, we all look at them like they're up to no good. Number 3. Easy air travel. Remember when you could get from the entrance to an American airport to the gate in a matter of minutes? Probably not, I guess. You're all too young to remember the good old days. Those security measures you're forced to go through and the fact that you can't be walked to your gate are actually relatively new to air travel. You also used to be able to bring a bottle of water on the plane with you. You also used to be fed mid-flight, though I'm still deciding if that's really a good thing or not. Number 2. Human zoos. During the early 20th century, millions of tourists gathered around makeshift enclosures that housed people. That's right, living, breathing people. Photos dated as recently as 1958 depict Black and Asian people corralled in human zoos and put on display. Regions like Norway, France, Belgium, and New York were known for their human displays. In 1906, the Bronx Zoo featured a man known as Oda Benga, who was labeled as the missing link of evolution. Number 1. Public executions. When was the last time you left the house to watch a public execution? Probably the late 1800s, right? Actually, the last recorded public execution was in 1936 when Rainey Bethea was hanged for the murder of a 70-year-old woman. Since then, executions have taken on a much more private form, though an exception was made for the closed-circuit television coverage of Timothy McVeigh's execution in 2001, and a few countries, such as Saudi Arabia, still practice the act from time to time on their more serious criminals. Thanks for watching. Do the normal thing right now, please, and subscribe to the channel. Click the bell and leave a comment about this video and maybe about other things you can think of that once, but aren't now, considered normal.